Hey everybody, how's it going, true believers? I'm here to give you another WandaVision episode review and recap. Today's episode is episode 5. Man, we don't have a lot of these episodes, only 4 more episodes left. I believe it's a 9 episode series, so whew. Today's episode is called On a Very Special Episode. Now, usually, if you're a sitcom person or if you grew up during the 80s and 90s and 2000s, you would know that a lot of times on a very special episode, it's usually when something big happens or a guest character appears. And boy, does this episode not disappoint. I'll do a little bit about the runtime. The runtime officially says 40 minutes. Technically, it's like 38, 39 minutes because, of the credits. They do all the credits, especially for across overseas and everything like that. So some people complain they want these episodes to be an hour. I'm okay with them being under an hour. Same thing with The Mandalorian, because they pack so much story and so much detail in here. You're not being, it's not cheapened. You're not being shortchanged. It's actually pretty good. And if you want to know something else that's pretty good, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. All right. So on this episode, I have some quick notes I wrote down on the phone, and I have an outline of some things I want to talk about right here. Uh, One thing I did not mention last time was that Monica Rambeau, she went through not just one wall, but she went through 4 different walls. 2 walls from Wanda's house, a fence, and the fourth wall, which is interesting because once we get to the fourth wall, we see, we see her view going through the first 3. On the fourth one, we see it's us looking at her. Kind of nice to know. Really, whoever's directing this is doing a really great job. I also want to mention that the actress who's playing Monica Rambeau is Tiana Paris. I feel bad about not saying that before. And the director's name is Director Hayward and is Darcy Lewis, not Willis, Lewis. So on this one, the babies won't go to sleep. Of course, Wanda has Tommy and Vision has Billy, and for whatever reason, they just refuse to go. And the intro we get for this one, since every episode has a different type of intro that mimics something from the decade, this is a very obvious 80s house, and the intro was a family ties slash growing pains kind of song with Wanda controlling the paintbrush. We even get to see not just Wanda growing up, but we see baby Vision, which is hilarious because Vision didn't grow up, he was created. And this intro also features the boys. Well, why does it feature the boys? As they're trying to get them to go sleep, Agnes comes in and Agnes says, "Hey, I can take the children for you." She's on her way to Jazzercise. She's very 80s out, big hair and all that stuff. And Vision's being, overly protective father, saying, "No, no, it's okay, it's fine. I'd rather not." And Agnes does this weird thing where she turns to Wanda and say, "Would you like me to take it from the top? I can just come back and come back in again for the scene." And Wanda looks between her and Vision, goes, "Oh no, Vision, it's fine. Just let her watch the children." And Vision pulls her aside and says, "Did you notice that?" And Wanda says, "I don't know what you're talking about. You didn't see? Did I? Am I the only one that saw what she did?" And Agnes is being silly with the twins, trying to rock them sleep, spraying some lavender. Someone made note that they were trying to find things of witchcraft because obviously Agnes is gonna be what's her name? Agatha Agatha Christie, from the same Vision and Scarlet Witch comic that this series is loosely based on. It's based on that and House of M, and also a Vision comic book that came out, I believe, in 2018, where Vision literally created his own family. There were other synthezoids like him. Down to the dog was also a synthezoid. It's very Pleasant Hill-ish, very weird and creepy. I digress. She sprays lavender, and someone, as I mentioned before, someone was trying to figure out what that is. That's lavender, in a spiritual, mystical sense, is used to ward away demons. It's also lavender was used to wash the feet of Jesus. So, if you're looking for that kind of detail, sure, but I don't think the lavender means anything. Uh, we get to a point where she's going looking for the scotch, and she's saying, "Oh, it's not for me. It's for them." Because back in the day, they used to give children some alcohol and kind of calm them down. And at this point, between Wanda and Vision talking, they notice that it's silent, that the boys aren't crying anymore. And coming downstairs are now 5-year-old Billy and Tommy. They are featured in the episode's intro. I did get ahead of myself, but I just wanted to talk about the intro so badly. And Agnes, she's sitting on the bar, or should I say the counter, with the drink in hand, so the drink is for her, saying, kids, you can't control them. They grow up so fast. Which may be a hint of something, but, well, Agatha had a son named Nicholas Scratch in the comics, so there's some speculation on whether her son will show up. But in the intro, we also get them celebrating 5 birthdays, which is quite funny. They've knocked it out of the park with each of these intros every single time. So we're going back to Monica. They're asking her what does she remember. All she remembers being sucked in was Wanda's voice and feels an overwhelming sadness that was keeping her down. She finally meets up with Jimmy and Darcy, and they're feeding her feeding her info, telling her what's going on. And it's kind of funny because the person who's running Monica's test, she's saying we want to do some more blood work and run something else, and Darcy's like, well, everything's clear. And she's like, yeah, that's the thing. Monica's done with this. She gets up, and they go into another briefing room where Director Hayward, who is a jerk, him and Jimmy are kind of giving the rundown. Apparently, Wanda was born in 1989, so that makes her 31 technically, or 32 if her birthday's in January, which is interesting because she did get blinked out. So even though 5 years have passed, she's technically just 32 right now, which is kind of sad because she's gone through a lot of trauma. They do the rundown of when her and Pietro's parents died, of Pietro dying, of her fighting against the Avengers, and then Jimmy points out, she earned their trust and was one of them. And then the incident in Lagos in Nigeria where, Charles Bones killed himself, but she tried to contain the explosion, but it killed a bunch of other people. And she's definitely being labeled as a villain. And we get a funny moment between Jimmy and Darcy where Darcy, finishes the sentence, flat out calls Hayward a dick. Um, Monica does not see her act as aggression because, for the fact of the matter, she could have killed Monica when she found out she really wasn't from there. She has some. If the fact she brought her in and helped her kind of get acclimated and talk to her, she doesn't feel like this is act of aggression because she could still be under duress. Well, we are shown that 9 days from the moment they're having this conversation, Sword allowed Hayward to show classified video feed of Wanda going into Sword and taking Vision's body. And we see Vision's split apart. His body is almost deconstructed. Arms here, legs there, head detached. She goes in and takes his body. And apparently, according to Jimmy, there was some of the Sarkovia Accords involving this. I'm a little bit fuzzy on that. I'm guessing that they didn't want Vision's body to be used as a weapon or something like that. But Hayward says, well, this goes against Vision's living will. He didn't want anyone to have his body, to use his body, X, Y, Z. Everyone, Darcy, Monica, and Jimmy are wondering how is Vision even alive? How is Wanda doing this? How is she so strong? Because they don't have the Mind Stone. We go back into the house where apparently the twins have found a puppy, and there's some cute interaction between them, the puppy, and Wanda. And Vision shows up as they're having this conversation about where they're going to keep the puppy. And Wanda wonders why does he have on his human face, because he was in purple face. Purple face. He was in his purple natural face earlier, but he switched when Agnes just barged in, hiding a pillow behind himself. And there was a cute moment where they were getting the binkies, and he put them in his ears. He phased them in his ears, which was very funny. But he has his human face on because he has a feeling that someone is just going to come through with the exact item that they need, and Agnes comes in with a doghouse. Wanda then uses her powers right while Agnes is right there to make a dog collar. And Vision scolds her. He says, I thought we were laying low. I thought we were just trying to appear normal. She said, I don't think we need to hide our powers anymore, which is very X-Men, very mutant related, where mutants are tired of hiding who they are. many of the militant mutants that are on Magneto's side. She sounds a lot like Magneto throughout this episode. So as they're having this conversation, they go back to the children. They have this parenting moment where they say, "Well, we think it's too much responsibility," and Vision coughs 10. We don't think you should. We should think you should be 10 for you to have these. For you to have this puppy. These kids aged themselves up to 10, just right there, which is it's also strange that Agnes not only saw the children grow up twice and saw Wanda make the dog collar and did not freak out, and there was no question, no mention of it. We're gonna go back over to Monica and Darcy and Jimmy. They're planning. Monica's saying she needs all this type of titanium stuff to be able to move in but not be changed, and that's just impossible. They're also trying to figure out where the twins come from because everyone comes from somewhere, but they couldn't figure out where Agnes came from. There's still no tag or ID of who Agnes is, but they know everyone else in the outside world. And Jimmy's saying it's impossible for her to just make matter, and Monica's saying those boys are very much real. So Wanda's changing the fabric of reality, and they're calling Darcy's calling the zone the hex because it's a hexagonal form, but it's also a cute way of them putting in, Wanda's powers are usually called hex powers in the comics, so it's a very cute way of fitting that in. But as they're going over Wanda's ability, saying, aside from, telekinesis and suggestion and things of that nature, she can manipulate matter and reality. And Monica flatly says she could have took out Thanos one on one. From what they heard, if it wasn't for everyone just coming back into reality and trying to process everything. And then Jimmy says, "Well, Captain Marvel could have had a good job. I think Captain Marvel could have took him out." And the moment she mentions Captain Marvel, Monica makes this face where she kind of just bites her lip and everything. Kind of, I'm wondering, is there some like distrust between those two? I'm My big brain is theorizing that she still hasn't. She doesn't probably doesn't believe that Carol was there when her mother had the cancer and died, which you were gone. I'm pretty sure that you did not have this conversation because these are movie slash comic book characters. They don't have important conversations all the time. She probably thinks that she abandoned her mother in a time of need and is wondering what the heck is going on. Probably blames her for the whole blip to begin with because she was off world. So she changes the subject instantly. They're trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out where people's powers come from because Captain Marvel got her powers from an Infinity Stone. So did Vision. Technically, Wanda's powers were unlocked by an Infinity Stone. We get a funny moment where we're brought to Monica's clothes that she was wearing when she left out. Because once she left out, her clothes didn't revert back to her sword attire. They were just still those 70s clothing. She shoots at her clothing with Jimmy's gun, and her outfit is 87% bulletproof, which is hilarious because all she went in there was with a bulletproof vest. Wanda altered her clothing, which is interesting that Wanda would give her more protection. There's an underlying tone throughout this episode where we're wondering how much of this is subconscious and how much of this is actually Wanda intentionally doing it. And maybe subconsciously, Wanda brought her in and at the same time wanted to protect her. Maybe subconsciously, Wanda wanted someone on the outside to see what was going on and experience it and perhaps help. You never know. Well, we won't know until it's all over, right? So Monica comes with a plan to sin against something that won't be changed by the era that they are in. And we're quickly going back to Vision in the office. And now, since the 80s, everybody has these giant computers, these huge television monitors that plug in from the back, and Vision's plugging it all in. And his Indian co-worker, his name's Norm, he says, "Oh man, can one day these things find me a date?" And Vision jokingly says, "Well, yes, of course they can," which is funny because Vision's from the modern era. They all are technically. So, email pops up on all of the computers, and everyone at once starts reading it. And it's an email, I believe, it's either from Darcy to Sword or Sword just sending it out, calling the event the Maximoff event, and explaining what's going on to a small degree. And Vision is visually confused and concerned, especially with everything that he noticed earlier and what he's noticing right now. Because before, Wanda would just things would just I say Wanda would just blink and rewind things, but at the same time, sometimes things just change and he would not notice, but he's noticing them now. So he's using his abilities. And he touches the computer and turns it off. He touches the guy's temples, and he becomes who he was before. He's saying he needs to call his sister. His dad is sick. He's saying that he's in pain. He's asking Vision to help him, and Vision is processing all this, and he changes him back because the guy's pretty hysterical. And one of the things that Norm says, which is so underlining, so chilling, is that don't worry about these computers, man. Remember, none of this is really real. Whew, none of this is really. Another thing to note is because we are in the 80s, there are tons of laugh tracks everywhere, even during Vision's moments, except when he turns, guy's brain on to his normal self. There's laugh tracks everywhere, and when he turns them back. One thing to note: the dog did get near a plug, and they decided to call him Sparky. And Spark is also the name of the dog that Vision had in his comic book, except that dog was, a metal dog. And in this, we're going back to Wanda and the children. And Tommy is training the dog. The dog is very obedient. And they ask Wanda, do you have a brother, Mom? And she says, yeah, he's gone far, far away, and it makes me sad sometimes. And they try to go show their father their trick that they've taught the dog, but she's like, oh, he's at work. And Billy and Tommy both like, but it's Saturday. Usually he's off on the weekends. And she says, well, no, it's Monday. And they're like, no, it's Saturday. And she's saying, well, he needs a distraction. Usually they're on the same page, and it feels like they're not on the same page. Something that Vision also mentioned while they were in the kitchen area when Agnes came in with the dog house and all that jazz. Well, then Sparky goes to the door, and he's starting to act erratic, starting to act strange and crazy. And, something has gotten in that Wanda does not know of. Wanda tells the children to stay there. Of course, they don't. They come outside with her. And there's this old 80s style sword drone. Apparently, Monica's mother that sword must have been made right after. Could have been made right after. This must have been a drone from S.H.I.E.L.D. possibly, because Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s. So I'm pretty sure this drone is probably something else that they had. But she's flying in an old 80s style drone. And this drone has visual on the area. They have visual on Wanda. And Wanda's eyes start to glow in this visual they have. And while the drone is in black and white, we see her eyes plainly in red. And it's visually stunning and visually striking. It's amazing. Then Hayward says, fire. Monica is like, this drone doesn't have weapons. They try to fire a missile on her. And then suddenly, there is a breach. Out of the breach, we give Wanda. And Wanda is in her Avengers outfit. The one that she wore in Endgame. She wears it in most of the movies. But Endgame and Infinity War, the coat, very Scarlet Witchy. She's walking through, pulling the drone, saying, "Is this yours?" Meanwhile, there are guns trained on her chest with their laser scopes. And Hayward gives this half-ass excuse, saying it's just a formality, which is, you know, I just wanted to, it comes with it. We didn't really want to use it. And she's telling them, I'm telling you this one time, stay out of my home, which that whole hexagonal area is her home. And Monica moves forward to talk to her, and she said, "Oh, you're still here." And she, Wanda does the little thing in her hand, and she's saying, "Wanda, you know I mean you no harm. You wouldn't have let me come into your home, and you wouldn't have let me deliver your babies if you thought I was a threat." And at this time, they're having this back and forth, and they're asking her, what do you want? You're holding thousands of people hostage. What can we do? What do you want? And she uses her abilities to get all the men holding the guns to turn them on Hayward. And she walks out and she says, I have what I want and I'm never going to lose it again. And once she goes in, she turns that clearish blue field into red. So there's a dome over the dome. And it was a very, very striking moment, especially since in Wanda's world, in the WandaVision world, it was daytime. Over here, it was nighttime. Amazing. So while Wanda was handling this, on the screen for the WandaVision, it says, pardon the interruption, or, they had the little blue screen that you get when there's an interruption on the show. And we get a Lagos commercial, Lagos paper towel. When you make a mess and you need to clean it up, that's of course referring to what I was mentioning to earlier with the incident that she accidentally caused that created the Sokovia Accords. We get to this crazy moment where Wanda and the kids are looking for Sparky, and the mailman even makes a snarky remark that says, "Don't worry, your mom, she has everything under control. She can control all of this," which is wow. So as they're looking for the dog was in Agnes's bush and apparently has now died because it ate too many of whatever the leaves were. And the boys are trying to get her to bring the dog back to life. And Wanda says, no, don't age yourself up. You cannot run from this pain. Ironic because Wanda is running from the pain of having lost her brother, her homeland, her brother, and her lover. She's saying, you know, I cannot bring back the dead. And Agnes has a moment where she says, really, you can't? She first says, you can, but then she's like, oh, you can't. Which is interesting to note. And at this moment where she's giving them this lecture saying, you have to live with the pain and carry the pain. We have Vision comes in and, he comforts the boys. And I guess Vision is the one that buried the dog. So, because when he comes in from the kitchen, he makes a remark, it's really strange to get a dog and lose a dog all in a day. And he just flat out has the conversation with Wanda, like, Wanda, what are you doing to these people? I undid Norm from whatever control you had over him and had a conversation with him. What is going on? Uh, you know, he says, I choose to believe that on some level this began subconsciously, and then when you woke up to it, you just played along with it. And he's telling her, you control all of them, but you can't control me. And she does this, can't I? And she starts making the credits roll, making the music roll, and Vision's not having any of it. He's just like, no, we're gonna have this conversation. What is going on? And we get this moment, just like you see in the thumbnail, of Vision's visually angry, and he's flying. He's back to his normal, purple face, and he's in the air, and Wanda's in the air. She's like, you never talked to me like this before. And he's like, before what? I don't remember anything outside of when we got here. What is going on? Why are you doing this? And she's like, I'm not doing all of this. I can't control these people. I can't tell them when to get up, brush their teeth, and go to dentist appointments. Pardon me. He's like, I don't remember how we got here. And it seems they're about to have a conversation when suddenly the doorbell rings. And Vision believes she's the one that made the doorbell ring because she controls everything, right? And she's saying, I promise you, I'm not controlling this. And Vision, being the computer he is, he's like, law of averages, it's getting harder for me to not believe this. So they both go to the door. Wanda opens the door. Lo and behold, it is Pietro. Not the Pietro from Age of Ultron. It's Pietro from Fox's X-Men, played by Evan Peters. Now, one thing to make note of, he does not have the same full silver hair he has from Fox. He has the hair that Quicksilver had in Age of Ultron, which is silver on top, black underneath where the roots and everything are, which leads some to believe that either he has been pulled from the multiverse or he's just been fabricated by someone to get a grip on Wanda, because she tearfully hugs him, and Pietro, not being startled or afraid of Vision, says, "Who's the popsicle?" And that's how the episode ends. While this is going on, Darcy sees Pietro come in on the screen, says she recasted Pietro. Very concerned, very confused. And thank you for being on me with this 24-minute journey. I needed to get into little bits while I explained what was going on, because this was actually really good. This is a really good episode. This is probably we're getting close to the plateau here. So many notes in here. The fact that he looks different, And there are some spoilers out there lead some to believe that this isn't actually Pietro. This is someone or something. My theory is they're probably right. This probably isn't Pietro because Wanda didn't will him to come here. It's interesting that not only was Agnes there to help will her to want children, she was also there for the whole dog being killed part. Maybe she is trying, maybe they were testing to see would she be able to bring back Pietro? Maybe that's what someone's trying to do. A lot of people think it's still Mephisto because Mephisto was very much a part of that Vision and Scarlet Witch comic where the boys were created, but then they were taken away because their souls are both part of the soul of Mephisto. And that was part of the thing that made Wanda crack, but Agatha Christie and I believe one other mind wiped Wanda so she would not remember this traumatic event, which she eventually remembered, guys, because Billy and Tommy came back in the comics. They're two prominent young Avengers, very prominent young Avengers, as well as prominent regular Avengers once they get older. I mean, Tommy is part of one of the most openly gay relationships in comics. Although North Stars is, in my opinion, North Stars being the first gay wedding, and his relationship was more earnest to me because I feel like all Tommy's big deal was just that he's gay with Hoagling. He didn't really seem too important until he got older, and we see stuff in the future. Just my opinion, I like North Star better. That's my LBGT guy because he's more earnest. I digress. Uh, this could be Mephisto because Mephisto is a big part of the comic. This also could be Nightmare. I said this way back when I reviewed episodes 1 and 2. Nightmare could have gotten in her mind when she was sleeping, found her grief, and led her to take back Vision and to take over this area. It could be AIM. I don't think it's AIM anymore because this seems very magical in nature. This is magical and scientific and mystical in nature, which is why this is the beginning. We're going to then get Spider-Man 3, which the rumors are saying that they're going to be characters from all sorts of movies. The early Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, the Amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, their characters being pulled in for that movie is what I'm hearing. And for the capping of this is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This could actually be Pietro from the Fox universe being manipulated and controlled by Nightmare or Mephisto taking that form. Also could be the Shadow King. Shadow King is also a big mutant character, and this will be an interesting way of bringing mutants into here. Not only just with Wanda being like her father Magneto. Um, there's a lot going on here, and I actually got through all my notes without having to look at them. Another thing, note: Jimmy Woo used magic that he learned in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this show is taking all the continuity and it's putting everything together. It's worth watching these episodes more than once, especially with how small they are. I'm pretty sure that was also on purpose because people are going to want to rewatch this. So people who only watch the MCU movies, please stick with us. You're going to enjoy this. You're in for a really good and wild ride. Everyone who has stuck with me with this video, I thank you once again. If I missed anything, I promise I'll mention it in my next video. Man, I'm really interested in seeing where this is going to go next. So, guys, thank you once again for showing up. Please remember to comment. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know who you think is behind this. I think it's 45% Wanda, and it's definitely 55% someone else, because someone wants to keep her there, and someone is keeping her in that world, and they are splitting Wanda and Vision apart. Sooner or later, Vision's going to have to break this. Please remember to hit the notification bell, get notified of more videos just like this. I apologize that this is close to 30 minutes, but trust me, there are others that spend like 40 minutes reviewing all of this. So, remember to share the video, show everybody, the great reviews we're getting of WandaVision, the great theories that are coming out of it. Remember, if you want to watch that first, just save me and then come on right back. Once again, everyone, please be good, be blessed, wash your hands, wear a mask. If it's cold where you are, remember to bundle up. As always, Black Lives Matter. Happy Black History Month, as always. And like I always tell you, I will definitely see you next time. Excelsior.